Once again, thank you so much to everyone for joining us today. Just wanted to spend a few minutes talking about our recently announced AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO processors, and wanted to kind of start first by talking about why now is the right time for AMD to enter the professional workstation market. So we've had a long success within our AMD Ryzen products. Like I said, it is the fastest growing processor brand, and we want to complement that momentum that we've got in the marketplace by now introducing the fastest professional workstation processor. We're continuing to bring innovative levels of performance to the market with this product. This uses our Zen 2 core architecture. Continuing to build on the technology leadership that we have with our AMD Infinity architecture, which some people call a chiplet architecture, and continuing to build a roadmap to the future. So again, this is not just a highly innovative product with AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO, but we're going to continue to introduce future generations of products in this product line to continue to bring new levels of innovation for our customers. And finally, we're doing this with a series of strategic relationships. First is our relationship with Lenovo. Right now, they are the exclusive provider of workstations using AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO processors. But we also have very strong relationships with ISVs. So AMD, Lenovo, and key ISVs like Adobe and Avid and Autodesk are working together not just to bring validated and certified solutions to market, but highly optimized solutions so that our customers can get the highest performance on their workloads when using AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO processors. So looking at the details of the product, this is the product that's delivering leadership performance with the first 64-core professional workstation CPU. But not only that, it also is the first 12-core, 4 gigahertz professional workstation CPU. So with this combination of high-frequency 12-core products, as well as a product portfolio that includes the first 64-core Pro Workstation CPU, we deliver leadership application performance not just for multi-threaded workloads, but also for single-threaded workloads. We combine that with the most advanced professional platform, so we have leadership memory bandwidth with more memory channels than competing solutions. So that gives you 8 memory channels to get data from the memory back and forth to the processor. So that's more of those memory channels than the competing solutions. And also each of those memory channels runs at a faster speed than the competition with DDR4 3200. So for your most compute-intensive manufacturing applications, whether you're doing an automotive crash simulation, or whether you're doing an airflow simulation for the automotive or the aerospace industries, these very memory-intensive applications, we've got, like I say, more memory bandwidth and through more memory channels, and each of them running faster. But we also have leadership I/O bandwidth. So this is the first professional workstation processor supporting PCI Express Gen 4 speeds, so double the speed of competing solutions. And we've got more of those PCI Express lanes. So this enables our customers to get the highest performance out of AMD Radeon Pro graphics cards, but also graphics cards from NVIDIA, and next generation storage using PCI Express Gen 4 NVMe storage. And all of these processors are built for demanding professional environments with the full suite of AMD Pro features. So AMD Pro Security, AMD Pro Manageability, and AMD Pro Business Ready. Again, all of those features that have been common within the AMD Ryzen Pro product line, all of those translate into the AMD Ryzen Threadripper Pro product line. So now we'll look at the product portfolio. I talked about it a little bit on the prior slide with our 64-core processor and the 12-core processor, but we also have a 16 and a 32-core processor. Again, all of those have maximum boost frequencies of over 4 gigahertz, so excellent lightly threaded performance. And those base frequencies, again, we talked about the 4 gigahertz base frequency for the 12-core, but also excellent frequencies throughout the stack, a 3.9 gigahertz 16-core and a 3.5 gigahertz 32-core. Each of these processors have a massive amount of internal cache. And again, from a memory standpoint, supporting up to 2 terabytes of memory with reliable ECC memory and supporting high-capacity memory technologies like RDIMM and LRDIMM. So this 2 terabyte memory capacity allows our customers to load their largest, most complex models directly into memory, so they can get those models directly into memory and manipulate those in memory, as opposed to having to only load a portion of the model with a different solution. So as we look at how AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO compares to 3rd generation AMD Ryzen Threadripper processors, you see the addition of those high-frequency 12 and 16 core processors to the product portfolio. Also, we talked about those 8 memory channels. That's double the memory channels of 3rd generation AMD Ryzen Threadripper. And with support for those high-capacity technologies like RDIMM and LRDIMM, you get to have significantly larger models loaded directly into memory with up to 2 terabytes of memory capacity in AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO. We have double the number of PCI Express lanes, again, for supporting GPUs as well as NVMe storage, and the addition of those AMD Pro technologies. So as we compare AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO against the competition, you see that the competition's highest core count part stops at 28 cores. So we've got 2 product offerings with higher core count than the competition. We talked about how we have 33% more memory channels. Each of those memory channels runs faster. Again, larger memory capacity for those more complex models, and more PCI Express lanes, each running faster for next generation's GPU and storage applications. So the next few slides, we're going to look at a couple of performance comparisons. So the first one is based on the 12-core AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO 3945WX. Again, this is the first 12-core, 4 gigahertz professional workstation processor. And on the left, when you look at single-threaded performance, up to 12% faster performance than the competition's 12-core processor. When you look at multi-threaded performance, up to 28% higher performance than the competition's 12-core processor. Next slide is going to look at the performance of the 64-core AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO 3995WX. And on the right side of the slide, what you see is a comparison of one AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO 3995 against 2 of the competition's highest performance server processors. So for the highest performance workstations available today from the competition, they take 2 server processors and put them in a workstation. You see a workstation using one AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO processor delivers 27% higher performance. On the left half of the slide, when you see a comparison to the highest performance that the competition can deliver in a single processor workstation, again, our 3975WX, our 32-core processor, delivers 67% higher performance, and that 64-core 3995WX delivers almost 2.4x the performance. So again, delivering leadership performance with not just the 64-core processor, but also our 32-core processor outperforming anything available today in a single processor workstation. One of the things that is really amazing about AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO processors is that not only are they excellent for CPU-intensive workloads, but this workload that we're looking at on this slide is a GPU-intensive workload. And so this particular application was run using an NVIDIA RTX 6000 graphics card, approximately a $4,000 graphics card. For many of our customers, this would be one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive component within their workstation. And you see that AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO delivers 37% higher performance on graphics workloads. So again, not only does AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO deliver leadership performance on CPU-intensive workloads, but it also delivers higher performance on GPU-intensive workloads. So next, we're going to look at a short video showing how these performance advantages translate into real-world application advantages.
Practically every entertainment production created today incorporates visual effects that alter or improve the physical appearance of actors. Digital de-aging is one of the most sophisticated of these visual effects, utilized to make an actor appear younger than their actual age. Boris FX offers powerful plugins for creating stunning visual effects in the major post-production software applications. Here, the artist is using Boris FX in Adobe After Effects, setting up the areas to be modified on a single representative frame in the clip. These areas will be tracked from frame to frame. Now, the CPU and GPU are both heavily stressed, as the dozens of effects are automatically rendered into every single frame of the clip. Threadripper Pro finished in about 5 minutes. There's no time to wait for the Xeons. Threadripper Pro delivers this movie magic.
So there you saw just another example of, when using real-world applications for new, innovative media and entertainment workloads, AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO delivering significantly higher performance than two of the competition's best. But not only have we worked to optimize the performance of AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO, but we also have strong relationships with a number of ISVs. I kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier. So we work very closely with Adobe, with Autodesk, with Dassault, and a number of their products, as well as the Chaos Group. And through our relationships with AMD and Lenovo and these ISVs, we're delivering, again, not just a workstation that's certified for these key ISVs, but really optimized. And what you'll see over time is as new versions of these ISV software are released, you'll see even higher performance with these new releases on AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO. One recent example, one of our partners released a new version of Autodesk Arnold that had additional optimizations for the AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO architecture. And again, the same silicon, the same hardware, just the new software release that had additional optimizations. They were able to see up to 200x, not 200%, but up to 200x faster performance on this particular workload. So again, as AMD and Lenovo and ISVs continue to work together to not just certify, but also optimize the performance of AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO, again, the best workstation that's available today is only going to get faster over time as our customers upgrade to new versions of ISV software.
All right, everyone. So hearing about the performance of these workloads, we want to know from you, for which type of workloads will your customers be using AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO 3000 WX series? Choose all that apply. Will they be using them for the media and entertainment workflows, design and manufacturing, software and sciences, architecture, engineering, construction, or other? So please choose all the options that apply, and we'll give you guys a couple of seconds to answer these questions. Awesome. Let's take a look at these results. Looks like we have a good spread, Andy, but mostly for media and entertainment with this audience. Wonderful.
Excellent.
Okay, so turn it back over to you.
All right. Thank you so much for your participation there. We're going to go through just the last few slides, and then we'll open things up to Q&A. So like I said, as we kind of had that poll question of the workflows and workloads that are most important to each of you that's attending the call today, really have specific proof points and advantages for all of the key workloads. So for media and entertainment, we've tested AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO against the competition and up to 52% higher Adobe After Effects performance. Similarly, for design and manufacturing workloads, not only do we have that higher memory bandwidth that we talked about earlier and the higher memory capacity that we talked about earlier, but up to 2.4x higher performance for Luxion KeyShot. We've actually got a solution guide available for our relationship with Luxion and all of the performance advantages of AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO for KeyShot. Within software and sciences, which includes oil and gas workloads, which includes data science and machine learning and AI workloads, as well as software development, up to 31% higher performance on compiling Unreal Engine. And then even for some of the workloads that have historically been more lightly threaded and more frequency sensitive, like architecture, engineering, and construction, again, with that 12-core, 4 gigahertz processor delivering leadership single-threaded application performance. So we've talked about a few of the different performance highlights throughout the course of today's conversation, but this really summarizes the performance advantages of AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO, the 64-core 3995WX against two of the competition's best. And again, in our internal labs, we tested against more than 25 different applications, and we won on everything. So you're not just media and entertainment workloads that are known to be very multi-threaded and scale well across a 64-core processor, but also for those design and manufacturing workloads with, like I said, airflow simulations for the automotive and aerospace industries, or automotive crash simulations within software and sciences. So, like I said, machine learning workloads, oil and gas workloads, or customers that are doing software development for development of next generation video games or operating systems or web browsers, and even those AEC, those architecture, engineering, and construction workloads. Like I say, really whatever workload we threw at AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO across a number of verticals, we delivered a superior performance against two of the competition's best workstation processors. But it's not just AMD testing and evaluating these processors, but a couple of our customers, Jellyfish Pictures, which is a leading animation and special effects company, as well as Epic Games, have both had a chance to evaluate AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO. And we're very happy with the performance that they got out of AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO, and gave our product a strong endorsement from each of those leaders, again, within the software development community as well as the media and entertainment community. And so next, we just wanted to briefly talk about availability. So I talked about it a little bit earlier, but the AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO processors are exclusively available within the Lenovo ThinkStation P620 workstation. Again, this is a workstation that was announced last month, and a joint announcement between AMD and Lenovo. And we're very excited with our relationship with Lenovo, and very excited with the performance of the Lenovo ThinkStation P620. So to conclude, we talked a lot about performance. Again, not just delivering the best multi-threaded performance, but also delivering leadership single-threaded performance with those 12-core 4 gigahertz parts. The most advanced professional platform, so with more memory channels than competing solutions, and each of those memory channels running faster. So again, getting data very quickly between the processor and the memory. Also leadership PCI Express, so faster PCI Express than the competition, and more of those lanes to get the most performance out of AMD Radeon Pro GPUs, or as well as GPUs from NVIDIA and NVMe storage devices. And then finally, these processors are built for demanding professional environments with all of the AMD Pro technologies that are available with our existing AMD Pro processors. And so that brings us to the conclusion of the prepared remarks for today. And so I'm going to pass it back to Tiana for some Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andy. It was so great to hear about the performance and features of these new workstation processors. They are awesome. So we do have some questions in from the live audience that I'd love to get to. So just as a reminder, everyone, please be sure to open up that Q&A widget at the bottom of your screen now and submit your question. Okay, Andy, so you touched on this a little bit earlier in the presentation, but what is the difference between Threadripper Pro and the 3rd Gen Ryzen Threadripper?
Sure. So there's several key differences between the new AMD Ryzen Threadripper PRO processors and the existing 3rd Gen AMD Ryzen Threadripper processors. So the first is with Threadripper Pro, you get those high-frequency 12 and 16 core processors that are not currently available with 3rd Gen AMD Ryzen Threadripper processors. Also double the memory performance. Those 8 memory channels get data in and out of memory at twice the speed of 3rd Gen AMD Ryzen Threadripper. And with the addition of those high-capacity memory technologies like RDIMM and LRDIMM, customers are able to load larger, much more complex models directly into memory with AMD Ryzen Threadripper Pro. Finally, you've got double the number of PCI Express lanes for those GPUs and NVMe storage. And then all of the AMD Pro technologies are available exclusively in the AMD Ryzen Threadripper Pro processor.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, so we have another question here. You talked a bit about memory speed, and this question asks, does the Ryzen Threadripper have a fabric also running at 30,000 megahertz?
So the Infinity Fabric within AMD Ryzen Threadripper Pro that connects the what we call the I/O die, which is where all of the memory controllers and PCI Express controllers, as well as what we call the CCDs, where all the cores are. That internal fabric runs at very high rates for AMD Ryzen Threadripper Pro processors.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we have a couple questions here about the CAD software. Is it licensed by workstation or per core or socket? And is the software highly multi-threaded and able to make use of all the cores?
So there's going to be some differences from vendor to vendor, but most CAD software is licensed on a per workstation basis. And again, depending on what you're doing within your CAD software, traditional just model creation is historically a very frequency sensitive workload. So the 12 core 4 gigahertz processor will be a great option there. But if you're getting into some of the advanced features within the CAD software and doing analysis as well as CAD all within one package, those would be some of the specific applications within the CAD frameworks where you get potentially higher performance from one of the more higher core count products within the Threadripper Pro portfolio.
Awesome, thank you. We have a few questions about this as well. So are these processors going to be available for system integrators? So at this point in time, this processor is exclusively available in the Lenovo ThinkStation P620, but there will be a future availability of these processors from system integrators in the future. That's correct. Wonderful. Awesome to hear that. Another question here. Will we see more support for AI and ML applications for Ryzen?
So right now, a large number of AI and machine learning workloads are really optimized for GPU compute. But over time, as the compute capabilities of CPUs increase, and again, this is one example of a very large increase in performance with AMD Ryzen Threadripper Pro. I think you'll see a migration of some of those workloads, especially the inference workloads, to the CPU. Like I said, right now, a lot of machine learning training is still being done on GPUs, but I think especially with the inference workloads, AMD Ryzen Threadripper Pro would be a great processor to run those inference workloads on.
Okay, great. And we'll get to a couple more questions. So this one says, how large are the L2 and L3 sizes, respectively?
So the L3 cache on each of the processors is going to vary with the core count, but the 64-core processor has a total of 288 megabyte of combined L2 and L3. When we go down to the 32 core, it has 144 megabyte of cache, and then the 16 and the 12 core, the 16 core has 72 megs of total cache, and the 12 core has 70 megs of total cache. So again, the total cache, the L2 plus L3 scales up as the core count scales up with a top capacity of 288 megabytes for the 64 core processor.
Wonderful. Okay, so we'll close out